Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show by people. Belize our hopes are to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. It's the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. All the things that must be happen like I got blue skies. I love it make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Get up, make every day come.
Morning and welcome to Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes for this morning, Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. From sweet Southside, Belize City, behind the zinc fence. XTV, simulcasting on Creme Radio for we time for the next 2.5 hours. I'm Sister YaYa, Marin Coleman, sitting in for Brother Most High. And it's chilly. You're never ready for this draft. And on a tuning on that Belize City for sure. On a try cover on a chest. The sun they come out, but then people had to get up early, April Cliff. I'm never ready for this weather. Your nose might run and your fingertips might cool. Once the sun gets out, you're all right. But for people who have to get up before the sun rise and after the sunset, you feel a little chill for sure. You don't need nothing thick. If you got something light, just so, get rid of that little friskiness in the morning. It's Wednesday morning, and I know the lineup. The National Meteorological Service of Belize want to bring the weather forecast. The weather forecaster is Shania Young. And then we have the first news brief for the morning prepared by XTV Newsroom under the leadership of Marcel Amaya. And then we'll take one quick break, and then we'll come back and be for we time. Make us already go this weather.
Good morning. A cool northwesterly airflow prevails. The 24-hour forecast is for cloudy skies with sunny breaks today and little to no rainfall expected. High temperatures today will be 82 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast and 82 inland and 70 up in the hills. Tonight's low temperatures will be 75 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 68 inland and 64 in the mountains. The winds will be from the north and northwest at 10 to 20 knots, and the sea conditions will be moderate. A high tide will occur at 8:17 this morning, followed by a low tide at 2:16 this afternoon. The sun rose at 5:41 this morning and will set at 6:07 this evening. The moon will rise at 3:42 this afternoon and will set at 4:14 tomorrow morning. The outlook for Thursday and Thursday night is for fair and mild conditions to prevail with little to no rainfall. And this concludes this morning's weather report prepared by the National Meteorological Service. For additional information, kindly visit the NMS website at nms.gov.bz.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989, Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
Back in November of 2023, the news of the death of 4-year-old YaYa Bennett while in the care of foster parents brought national outrage. Just weeks before, in September, the Department of Human Services had placed YaYa and her 2-year-old sister in the care of Spanish lookout couple Denver and Lena Plett. A post-mortem examination later revealed baby YaYa was beaten to death. The couple subsequently admitted they had lashed the child with a belt. The Pletts were charged with manslaughter. Today, Minister of Human Development, Honorable Thea Garcia Ramirez, said the matter is now before the court.
I am aware that the case is before the courts, and because it's before the courts, I am unable to comment on that until the court has a ruling, and the ruling is known. So unfortunately, I have been briefed about what has happened. It's most unfortunate. The death of a child is always so very sad. It marks the end of so much potential, what could have been, what life they could have had. And I, as a mother, I can only guess at the pain that the family and the loved ones feel, and it's truly unfortunate. And we work hard at the ministry to ensure that those cases don't happen again. Unfortunately, they occasionally do, but in this case, I am glad that the matter is before the court, that one way or another there will be a resolution, and that it is my deepest hope that justice will come for the young one whose life was cut off so abruptly.
Sarah Ramirez said that since that tragic incident, there have been revisions made to procedures within the department. She said it now falls on her to ensure that those are adhered to.
I know that there's been a revision of the processes for foster care. The truth is that the ministry is just now starting an entire revamp. We had several positions that were open that have now been filled. The previous administration, the last 4 years, was marked by a lot of very good, very urgent, very needed policy and legislative reviews. I believe now it falls in my lap to ensure that all these wonderful revisions and policies are actually felt, that the difference is felt.
Garcia Ramirez also admitted that she has been surprised by some of the cases brought to their attention, and added she now has an even higher level of respect for social workers.
I will be honest with you in saying that these last 2 weeks, I have been truly surprised, and I thought that at almost 50, nothing could surprise me, nothing could faze me, if you will. But I've been surprised, and not always pleasantly, in how creative people get, especially in my little Belize, how they get so very creative and innovative in ways to hurt each other. It's baffling, it's deeply disturbing in some cases. Some of the cases, I've always had respect for social workers, but I now stand in awe of them, because it must be difficult to go home having listened to all that happens at work, and then still go home to your family, and they must just hug their little ones even more closely at night.
The Prime Minister has indicated that the new budget will not be presented until mid-May. The budget presentation, which usually comes in March every year, was delayed due to the general elections of March 12. Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Tracy Panton, says the new timeline is unacceptable.
It's not acceptable. It absolutely is a concern for us. How are we running this country now? There are going to be lots of questions that will be asked of the Prime Minister, and we expect to get answers from him as soon as the Parliament is convened. We haven't been convened as yet. As you know, I have been sworn in as leader of the opposition, but none of our other members have been sworn into the National Assembly, and so we need the Parliament to convene so we can think on those issues.
The Financial Secretary, Joseph Waite, has explained that in such cases, the Finance and Audit Reform Act, FARA, provides for the Minister of Finance to issue a special warrant which allows the funding of current programs up to 4 months. However, there can be no new programs funded. Whatever monies are used up are then deducted from the new budget upon report to Parliament. The Minister of Youth and Sports, Anthony Mahler, has refuted a report that over 40 people are to be laid off from the Department of Youth Services and scores more at the Sports Council. In the case of the DYS, the claim is that the number of staff would go from 119 to 75. While claims were made about open vote workers being the minister says an assessment is being conducted to ensure functioning youth programs are established. The minister has said that if at all people may be transferred. However, there is no set timeline for this happening. On Monday, residents of Sartineja rallied to show support for Sergeant William Marin, who is being transferred from the jurisdiction, which also includes nearby villages. The community was showing their support and making a plea to stop his upcoming transfer. The rally captured the attention of Corozal Bay Area Representative Honorable Thea Garcia Ramirez, who said that Marin is one of her constituents. She said that he is a shining example of the collaboration police officers should have with their communities.
It seems that Sergeant Marin made a special effort to ensure that things like the police cadets, for instance, that program was started there. It's been flourishing. I am told from the villagers and members of all of those villages how very happy they are. I know because I've contributed to the efforts personally to the Easter egg hunt that he has and his family have started to gather funds and Easter eggs and all of that. So these things are, I believe, part of community policing. I think it strengthens the relationship that people have with the entities that preserve law and order in our community. It makes their job easier. It restores faith and confidence in the police department. I know they're all transferable positions, but I think that it is extraordinary. And I'm going to be 50 this year. I've never heard of a community clamoring to keep their police officer. Usually when you hear about news, police and community, it's because it's quite the opposite. So he must be doing an extraordinary job there. He must be doing all the right things.
Our newsroom reached out to the Belize Police Department for comment on the situation, but as of news time, we have not received a response. Transfers normally take effect in July. That's the end of the news brief for this morning, but not the end of news from back at the zinc for the rest of the day. So immediately after Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes from 9 to noon on Creme Radio, there's the Morning Stew, lot of news, update and commentary. And then at 12:30 on Creme Radio is a full news package. At 3 there's a news brief. And at 5:15 there's a full news package. At 6 o'clock there's a full news package here at XTV. And remember, you can always tune in to Facebook, XTV Belize, and YouTube, XTV Belize. For any one of our programming, share the link, subscribe to XTV Belize YouTube page. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We'll open up the phone lines and we're Cascas.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. The news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports.
Randolph Friesen, and I manage Westbell Produce, better known
Welcome back to Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's our time until 9 o'clock this morning. I have to give thanks to my people who feed me. Give my kilo. I get spoiled in the long and I get hash fish. All week I get hash fish. I think I get hash fish last week. Give thanks to the hash fish game. And so, yeah, the phone number is 280-5848. 280-5848. Feel free to call in and share whatever you want to share. So, I know I don't always get this opportunity for host WB. And I don't think I've ever had a host WB on and off since 2006, over 18 years. So, when I get the opportunity, I make much of it. And so, I really feel good that we have our own media house, so that when one call upon WB and present to our community concern, that we could follow up on it and bring our response. And so one of the callers we call regularly, I believe the brother was a jeweler. He's not a jeweler. Well, I don't know if he still, maybe he still make jewelry, but I don't see how that tongue to sell no more. I think he have some limitations right now. Anyways, he bring up one talking yesterday about some children who were abused and killed by a Mennonite couple when we adopt them. And he said, he had nothing about it. I remember it vaguely after I got look online for the news item when he bring it up yesterday. And both with that story and with the story about Punta Gorda, Penny Tongue, morgue not working, the refrigeration unit not working, I make it my business for call Marisol and say, sis, I know you got a lot going on. If you have the bandwidth, you and your news team, you could please follow up on a story and give thanks to XTV news team. Again, they follow up with the story. And so that made the leading story this morning. And I get an opportunity to see the new minister for the ministry there for human development. And that we're hopeful going forward that the revision to the act will be enforced and that people don't have to chase back at the ministry for find out what the resolution or the response to a matter, especially when they have public outcry or public concern. It really does matter. A tough morning for me this morning. Our family is grieving. I don't want to run off about too much about it because it's not about me, but I just say that. You see people on news and you hear people's story. And when you have family members where in a street life, we know how that usually ends up most of the time. But until it happened to you, you don't know how you're going to respond to it. So I know my sister is going through, my youngest sister with both my parents is going through a tough time right now, her and her children and our extended family. And so I just make the community know, a tough time this morning. It's different for me personally because I process differently from most people, including our family. So I just put that on there. And just yesterday, me and Paulo attack, and we're talking about the environments our children come from and the impact on our children. And, usually black youths, when we talk about, for the most part, violent street crimes. And they're not just at Belize, they happen throughout the region. So we have one guest today from 8 to 8:30. He's my co-host on Sunday Review. He is Brother Ako Motota, and he one of the people in women instrumental in the Trinidad and Tobago Black Power movement. So we had YUBA Belize, they had the National Joint Action Committee, NJAC. And so recently, because when you look on with, one side there, we're not calling talk about black people. Every chance I get, I talk about black people because that's my interest. African descendants racialized as black people. So, you know, you talk to X and others who still the wrong from you bad days, they and tell you there's no way they could have imagined that this would have been the condition of black people's lives in Belize. And not just it happened in Belize, it's throughout the region. And so sometimes you get really tired of talking about it, you get tired of living with it. But the part of our life, it is what it is. So therefore, you know, get a read from here, what is going on with black people at Trinidad and Tobago, especially as it relates to crime. And I mean, we just have to accept that this is normalized, that this is just how it won't be till no black people know there. And I don't know. So I have on this morning. I try to get one of my brother for next week. I tell you, I love for you people, you know. For you people that kicks, right? So I called Russ Ruben yesterday because I had to be intentional. I want to bring people into the space. What are the beautiful things in for we community, black people especially. And you know, usually sitting, you know, hear them, or you're sitting, but you might not know their story, the sacrifices they make for get part in there. And so, you know, I know per se I don't want no guests, because I personally, like, I tired of the same people, they talk about the same thing, yeah, in, yeah, out, and I talk throughout the community, from bottom up. I just, going 18 years that I do this, over 18 years that I do this now, and I want to see new faces. I want to hear different perspectives. I want to hear other solutions. I want to hear good things, especially. Now, expect Sticks for calling. I tell Sticks to go calling anytime, Sticks, because Sticks, they make the sacrifice again for host the Easter Fun Day for the youth there in a community, and he definitely needs support. So I tell Sticks, no problem, Carlene Sticks. So I don't know if you're calling today, if you're calling next week. I want to give thanks to the people who make I know I would listen to you. Morning, Abdul. It means a lot to know that we're being heard as a media house. People give you feedback. People tell you how much they appreciate African descendants racialized as black people being centered in our fullness. Black people have all kind of realities. And one thing that you have all different experiences of African descendants racialized as black people. The number is 280-5848. I don't know if you're not calling, I want to finish telling you where black people come from. I want definitely, because I don't hear the phone the ring, so it looked like I could finish there, 20-something. And then, I bring the book. And then I'm telling about, I think last week I telling about this book when my sister from foreign sent for me. Morning, Sonia. And one thing will make her cry. And I don't cry. When I'm a child, I'm a real cry baby, as I told you yesterday. But I don't cry as much anymore. But if there's a need to cry, crying is cleansing. I don't have no issues with crying, whether in a private or in a public. If I feel full, it just overflow and life real. I encourage people for not internalize. And the same for your joy, you know. That not only for when you go through one sorrowful time. Like when you happy, like you make a big laugh, you roll over, whatever you do, you lay down up in your joy. Both of them, the part of life. Joys and sorrows. With a hope that we have more joys than sorrows, considering how we end up in this part of the world as African descendants racialized as black people. And so, morning, talk to it.
Greetings, sister.
Greetings, brother. You see how your concern get addressed?
Yeah.
The concern we bring forward yesterday about the youths there and the Mennonite couple who may adapt there.
Yeah, the Mennonites?
Yes, that was our leading story in the news this morning.
Yeah.
So respect to holding us accountable for that community concern.
Yeah, correct. Justice must be done. The scale of justice, it's about time that justice put the same weight that put on the black people side, put on the Arab racial side. It can't be that every time is a justice, only 100 kilograms comes only to our side, to Afro-descendant side, and the other side only 0 kilogram. So I'm glad when justice is done. The little 2 cents I want to put in, yesterday I think I heard about Lightburn, Pulu Lightburn, knowing as Bill. He mentioned about black people around the world, not only in Belize, but I think he was referring to Belize or maybe the U.S. It's only hire always as security, police, janitor. Those are the only places that black people are always welcome wherever they go. I notice in the country of Belize, if you go to the different businesses, you have all the black people doing as usual, the dirty work, and the clear skin complexion people are the ones that's running the higher business. They are closer to the masters, in other words. So Baramuta Baruka say, one people in a sun and rain, one people are collect the coin, one people, one people always us in the lower of every area. Now, I want to connect this with the discrimination of Afro-descendants coming from Jamaica and other countries, because I noticed the asylum that was sponsored by that country in the North, I call it Babylon, people call it United States. They were sponsoring asylum seekers and refugee seekers because they wanted to stop the immigration from Central America to that country. And that was working very well, but only when the immigrants are not Afro-descendants. That's also I noticed. So every time a Jamaican or so a brother from IT or a brother, any Afro-descendant brother is moving towards this direction, or he has problems. But I noticed specifically when it comes to Jamaican, and I believe the reason why Jamaicans have stopped or prevented or they're trying to not give them hassles from coming is because they are very upstanding people in defending their rights. Like Bob Marley say, stand up for your rights. And Jamaicans are always standing for their rights in any part of the world. I travel a lot of countries. I used to be a sailor and know a lot of ports and cities. And I noticed the only Jamaican are spread it worldwide and stand up for their right. They don't think twice to tell whoever asks. That's why in the U.S. they call it Jamaican passe, because they have no fear. They stand up for their right. And that's what they don't like about them. I experienced, I will wrap with this because it's a long story and I don't want to take all the time. I experienced travel through the Caribbean as a sailor in the Bahamas, in Nassau, Bahamas, in Thomas Virgin Island, being discriminated simply because I wear African colors, red, green, and gold. Red, black, and gold. All the like immediately the police want to stop you and they want to know this and what this and who you they do yeah. So I have to identify myself in Nassau, Bahamas, and Charlotte, Amalia, St. Thomas Virgin Island. So the other Jamaican guys, which is the one I used to hang with, the yard man, as we call him, they used to say to me, he said, man, you know why they're harassing you? Simply because you think you are Jamaican. Respect, one love.
One love, brother, respect. Oftentimes it's because we don't know the stories, the fullness of the stories of African descendants racialized as black people in this territory known as Belize. And I encourage Belizean people, especially African descendants racialized as black people. We always knew we were human beings, primarily European enslavers, colonizers, using organized religion of Christianity, said that we are not human beings, for violate we for most of them benefit and privilege. So know that we are historically speaking, we are the first people on planet Earth, thousands of years, melanated people, dark-skinned people, African people, the first. We're using the Gregorian calendar, so according to the Gregorian calendar, we're in the year 2025. but over 6,000 years ago, there's documented, well-researched evidence of, in what's called ancient Egypt or Kemet, having a pre-dynastic and several dynasties ruling by groups of families. They had good moments and not good moments. And I said that to say that at the point where our people were kidnapped, murdered, human trafficked, brought to these territories, that they come with one fullness of knowing who they are. They come from families, from communities, from heritage, from lineages. They come with themselves, they come with their values. So that when they land here, they're not like yes, it was traumatic, they never sign up for this, this is not what they agree to. But they connect with one another. Some of them talk the same language, one lot of them never talk the same languages. And so that's how the Creole language, like the Belize, evolved. And so we've always had a history of resistance. Always documented. I'd encourage, if one just buy one book. And I can't believe I just said this, but if it was one buy one book, I encourage you to buy History of Belize, 13 chapters by Assad Schumann. I hear about the book for years, and I buy it. For personal reasons, and I buy it. I just buy it last year, July 26th. I usually write in my book, go part I buy it, I want to buy it. And one of the things that surprised me is that one lot of the information in this one book that I find in the latter book then when I buy and borrow and read per line. In this one book. So that's what I recommend it as a reading source for Belizean people. And I know we have one literacy issue. I got it. Like, I really get it. We've had these literacy issues for decades. I don't know what the Ministry of Education and they sleep at the wheel, the government of Belize, they sleep at the wheel, both administration, because we not just start to have that most Belizeans are not literate. This happened for decades. Now, people were gone to school at Belize under colonial rule. They would say to you that Cliff, please come put on this fan because of the sweat. That they got reading, writing, and arithmetic mastered. So they would not say that they were an illiterate generation. It may be said that maybe after political independence, after 1981, that when people, upon looking back, recognize that there's been a decline in the literacy level of Belizean people. I work for try to get somebody we're training a literacy for command next week. Morning, talk to it.
Morning, sister.
Morning, brother.
Sister, about 3 weeks now I've been calling. I call Clem, I call Love, in regards to basically the same thing that you were saying earlier with the early demise of our young black youths. It is sad, from the early 90s to now, I would say a good 5,000 black youths and other youths have been killed in this country. And when you analyze it, given the small population of this country, you're looking at a genocide unfold right before our eyes. And the people are numb, Sister YaYa. They are numb. I mean, anything else. Everybody is partying and jollying and things, but when it comes to the reality of facing fact, what is happening to black people after 500 years of slavery and torture, this genocide is visiting us again. I propose, and I could be wrong, that we need to implement, it don't have to be the Bukele method, but I'm saying that the drug epidemic is out of proportion. The gun epidemic is out of proportion in Belize. So I'm saying that we implement a tactic of terrorism in terms of calling what's happening, calling that terrorism, this gang, and calling the proliferation and the free range of drugs, and many of our law enforcement people being involved or allegedly involved in it too. Calling that terrorism. The specific reason for is that we must take a hard line to save our people. A lot of our black youths and other youths out there that is killing each other, they want help. They need somebody to turn to. They need somebody to say, brother, sister, come in, I'm going to shield you. I'm going to protect you. But it takes now for us, as the same people in the society, as the civilized people in the society, to take the bull by its horns, to bite the bullet and say we're going to implement a process to protect our people, to protect our country, to protect our constitution and our democracy. If not, if we continue to look a blind eye on what is happening, we're going to fall into what Mexico is going through, sister. We're going to fall into what Colombia was in back in the 70s and 80s, and just coming out of it. And still they are feeling the repercussions of drugs and terrorism. So we need to take the bull by its horn. It is no time for politics. It is no time for church and mosque and them thing there. It is time for us to say, look, enough is enough. We're going to call a national, whether it be a symposium or a gathering, and have all aspects of society, Rastafarian, Catholic, Buddhist, Muslim, Adventist, etc., to come on board, whether it's the United Democratic Party or the People's United Party or the Green Party or Yellow Party, whoever. Let us come together, have a national dialogue, so we could reach to a consensus to stop this madness. It is hard. It is sad. Your
Brother Dawood.
leading. Yes, sister.
Brother Dawood,
I'm hearing you.
serious talk. You really believe that the people in power not know who responsible? I could do something about it. You think they, my position is similar to the Caribbean. The people that in duty for lead this process are very much involved in this process and are benefiting from this process. So truthfully, they don't have no intention to fix it long term. Since we are telling the truth, I could tell the truth. Because for we people not make gun, for we people not make bullet. So I just say, what I get tired of, and I hear you, brother, I know that one issue needs to be resolved, but what I tired of the focus be on the gunman, they on the ground. Yes, they have a responsibility to pull the trigger. Yes, families have a responsibility to raise their youths. But then the always then they want to go far. You see? Instead of go for the real power there, the people who really got entrenched. No, they don't want to go there. And the people not collectively call for God there. The always the youths there, then they come for every time. That the lowest hanging fruits. And I said this is throughout the Caribbean region with the top boy and a brother. And in the United States, so when you say the same thing that happened with African descendants, which is black people, for the most part, no care how you're going at the world, brother. What else could it be but racism, capitalism, all the isms and schisms? So I just say, I mean, how much time we are meet, we know what that issue. Who want to take the leadership to resolve it? That's why only the people are saved. The people must lead because the administrations then benefit from it, brother. What's about that?
Sister YaYa, I reserve the rights to agree with you, and I know a lot that what you are saying is the truth. Hence the reason I call many times and say that God forbid that our law enforcement personnel is not being influenced by these cartels. God forbid that our politicians is not being influenced. And not only that, but the judiciary, because there was a time in Colombia and in Mexico whereby the judiciary was influenced greatly by the narco monies, and a small country like ours, that would bring total destruction upon our society.
Brother, you said...
But let me say this before I forget. But given the fact that we are in a country of democratic values and a court of law, we cannot really say, well, this one and that one and Torah and the other.
You just said God forbid.
I just want this disclaimer. We cannot say that because we do have a court of law, and then we could be brought to court to give an explanation on it.
I hear you, but I'd ask you. God, you just said God forbid, but I'd ask you, based on what you see on the news, based on the level of corruption in this country, based on who you see get held according to the law, which are usually impoverished people of color, moneyed people, what I call the predatory class, you say that there's an injustice. We say that, brother. There's a difference in how people are treated. We say that. That in our year is so. We say that. So I'd ask you if you really believe that not only happened at Belize. I know we not got no evidence that says teacher, but I'd ask, just as so logical, just looking at the news, where you just see happen over and over again, if you just say God forbid, but I'd ask you if you really believe that the security services, the judiciary, cabinet, government, if you really believe that them people know what happened on the ground, they don't know.
Well,
so they can't fix it.
Well, sister, there is a lot of question mark over a lot of things. Hence the reason I am proposing that all the righteous-minded individuals, whether from the political spectrum, the religious spectrum, civil society, the hood, etc., that mean good for our people and mean good for Belize, let us come together. And you say, who's going to lead it? You and I are going to lead it, Sister YaYa. We are leading it now.
Why do you think they don't come together? I just to be real with you, brother. So I just say, you don't want to be the first, you don't want to be the last. You have had the Black Summit. I tell her real. I don't see it happen because the black people and they don't care about black people. Real talk.
No,
I said black people don't care about themselves because we black used to shoot up one another.
I'm going to say this and get off because I know other people want to talk. But what I'm going to say, sister, is we're going to have a broad aspect in our society. Black people, white people, Maya, Mestizo, Garifuna, everybody now, because this is all of our interest. So all of us going to come together, just like how I think about 10 years ago when we had the Black Summit. We're going to do a similar thing, and we're going to get everybody from all the political parties, all the religious institutions, all the gangs. We're going to come together and we're going to solve it, sister. And let me say, you have always been leading the charge, Sister YaYa. You are still leading the charge. Enough respect to you, sister. May Allah continue to give you the strength, the blessings, to continue doing what you do. The great power is blessing you. The ancestors is protecting and blessing you, sister. Don't give up, as Odinga always used to say. Don't bend, don't turn. We march forward. Hasta la victoria. Sister, thanks for the time. You have a blessed day. Assalamu alaikum.
Thanks for the reason, Brother Dawood. Big respect. We have another, maybe 7 or 8 minutes. I know they say I have the answer. I know that there's been thorough research done. And I don't one of them people was stand firm with Brother Doc Hubert. It name just slipped my mind. Like Bushfire. I forget. The social anthropologist. I know Maricel worked with the guy, Dr. Nelma Mortis, work with him. Dr. Virginia, I think Hampton does work at UBS, still work. Then work on the research, and then they use the bulk of the research for a book like Bushfire. I tell anybody we really want, before we can make decisions, that's why I encourage people reading, people learning. We have people on the ground who are living in their communities, where have family members who have been harmed and have family members who harm other people. You have innocent people who get caught up. You have generations of, like Polo says today, enough for him watch 3 generations. You have generations of children of all ethnicities who hearing gunshots and seeing one dead body has been normalized for them. That not natural. And it have one negative impact on the individuals because most of them they grow without meaningful intervention as quick as possible for addressing kind of trauma. So the research has been done as far as what needs to be done. Like I want always, people have done other research, but I tell you the one where I drawn to. That the one like the book like Bushfire. So I just say if the administration mysterious about change, they have something for guiding. So they don't want to do it. Then the benefit from it not being done. And that's why I tell them for the first time I gone and watched the nomination day last month. And I literally had to force my water fan drop. Because majority of the people, at least the one who I seen in City, are African descendants visualized as black people. I'm like, why? Why? But I know primarily because the people don't have the knowledge. That I will always accept that once people have the knowledge and there be one period of time for them to acquire it, that they want on their own look for meaningful solutions, hold themselves and others accountable. And so I really exhausted, like, I tired of the big meeting and talk. Listen, that's why I really did look for the people who I trust, who I know have credibility. For the rest of the month when I host WB for Brother Mo's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, for look for the people and what to do beautiful things in the community. Because if you watch the news, and again I show you, you watch the news, you that things say, black people not good for nothing in this country. Because there's this constant framing, and I know they said the wrong things that happen, but it's how you frame the story. But number one, youths thing where what we call gang life, there somebody picnic, and as well as the people who they harm. And so if we don't look upon the whole person, look upon the families where they come from. We got 4 minutes and we have to go to a break, Carla. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead.
Good morning, Sister YaYa.
Morning, brother. I got 4 minutes. Talk.
Yeah. All right. When you drive from LA to Belize, that's 3,000 miles. It takes 3 days. When you look at the cartel situation, all cartels are not the cartels. You got the broke ghetto cartels and you got the humble cartels, right? So basically, it may sound impossible, but when you talk to cartels at Brownsville border and everything, you know what I'm saying? These cartels know these police officers in any country that they work with. That's the first thing they target is the authority, where they live, what are their numbers before they get into your country. That's the first thing you want to know is where the police officers, who's in charge. Trust me, these cartels know where the police officers, directory or the addresses, some of them. That's real. I talked to a cartel at the border, a broke cartel. The cartels at the border from Brownsville to Cancun, all of those from the Gulf and everything, those are the gangsters cartels. But, the real cartels don't associate with those cartels. So it's a conflict of interest. So my point is, those cartels know the police officers in Belize. That's all I gotta say. You know what I'm saying? They know who to contact when they want to do what they gotta do. I'll call you back after the break.
All right, bro. Respect. Thanks for the call. So the phone number is 280-5848. We have another maybe 3 minutes. Like I say, if I could squeeze in at least, I think 2 or 3 more of where African descendants racialized as black people come from the Belize. It says this is from the formation of a colonial society, Belize from conquest to crown colony. In 1834, a public meeting decided to apply for 1,800 Africans captured from enslaving ships. That's 1834, that a year when there should have been the abolishment of enslaved people. They had an apprenticeship program for 6 years, it ended up going for 4, and so on August 1st, 1838, the legal, physical, chattel enslavement of African descendants racialized as black people in the English-speaking regions came to an end. And so in 1834, they had a public meeting at Belize, and they decided to apply for 1,800 Africans captured from enslaving ships. And then I have Colonialism and Resistance in Belize, Essays in Historical Sociology, O. Nigel Boland. Between 1816 and 1825, 40 enslaved people were imported mostly from Jamaica. Between 1816 and 1825. I've cited other time periods when people from Jamaica came to Belize. So they have several sources at different times when people from Jamaica came. And then Colonialism and Resistance in Belize, Essays in Historical Society. And 459 Africans liberated from Spanish and Portuguese enslaved vessels were landed in Belize in 1836. But many of these died soon after arrival. So now these are during the apprenticeship period. And 459 Africans liberated from Spanish and Portuguese enslaved vessels were landed in Belize in 1836, but many of these died soon after arrival. And then I have an attempt to augment the labor force in the 1830s with liberated Africans from Spanish and Portuguese enslaved ships was only partially successful. Some of those who landed died of cholera, drowned, or killed themselves, but at the end of 1837, some 357 of these Africans remained in Belize. So I tell you how people resist, right? Some of those who landed died of cholera, drowned, or killed themselves, but at the end of 1837, some 357 of these Africans remained in Belize. And I think I might have, I know that's 7:30, but just make I finish this, guys, I drag this out for too long. A History of Belize, page 177, Nadja Dobson. In July 1836, the commission finally sent a cargo of 193 liberated Africans to the settlement. In July 1836, the commission finally sent a cargo of 193 liberated Africans to the settlement. In the 13 chapters, page 18, talked about 200 Irish and West Indian troops in 1797. And then 3 companies of the Black West India Regiment in January 1798. 3 companies of the Black West India Regiment in January 1798. And I think there were a total of 28 sources. Let's say I duplicate 1 or 2. So we can say we got 25. Cited sources that were Africans, racialized as black people, came from in Belize. And my point is, for bust the myth, to stop make we say the lie that Creole people come from only British and African descendants. There weren't enough British here for make so much of we come from the union. But because we don't know the story, those responsible for decolonizing our minds or beings intentionally not to do it. And so it's up to we to tell the story. And I just one of the people in because you bought the United Black Association for Development in our contemporary times did that. And so that's why from 8 to 8:30, we'd have Brother Akko Mutota, and as a youth, he was part of the National Joint Action Committee, NJAC, so similar to how we had YUBA Belize, they had NJAC, that Trinidad and Tobago, and it was their Black Power movement. When I talked to him, get advice from him about the conditions of black people in the Caribbean in particular after you had such robust Black Power movements in the late 60s. It's 2 cents come time, and it's brought to us by Fort Point Security.
watching WB, and this is XTV. I want to say a big respect to our sponsors, 4 Point Security. There's a lot of silent disease out there that man are not aware of. One of them, the prostate cancer, silent killer. A lot of man, all right, a lot of males don't know exactly how prostate cancer come about. Some of them even know what a prostate cancer. Look, we'll find out the people in 2 cents about prostate cancer. And what do you know about prostate cancer?
Nothing. I don't know about anything.
You don't know that there was man cancer, not that was silent killer?
No.
All right.
Between 100 man, usually like 10% catch it.
Yeah, kind of silent killer.
Yes, yeah. Very serious disease called cancer. Cancer is a killer.
Yeah. All right. What do you know about prostate cancer?
Well, I know, from the basics, prostate cancer are mostly for men. And then, like, probably in the 40s, 50s, so they don't really. It's how they affect you, right? I think sometimes I know that hereditary too. Right?
That's your 2 cents.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
2 cents question again. What you think about prostate cancer?
Prostate cancer, what I think about prostate cancer, I think more men should consider going to the doctor more often to get their prostate checked out, because prostate cancer is something very serious that most men in Belize actually suffer from. I feel as if though herbs and taking care of your body, doing a regular exercise, your stretches, that kind of stuff there might limit your chances of getting prostate cancer.
So they say eat healthy and exercise.
Eat healthy.
To help you prevent it slight.
Yeah, well.
At an early age.
Well, I tell you, when it comes to taking care of your body, you have to be able to put that best foot forward every time, because they are just built up cells in your body, you know, and blood will not flow and not move wrong. And once you the intake and ingest the right stuff, you build up your molecular structure, take care of the mucous membranes, get that blood flow and that blood health going, you are good, man.
That's your 2 cents.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I take my checkup regular, and that if I figure I got that, so I feel like it's swell or not.
Yeah.
Right. But I eat lone tomato, raw tomato, and that carry on anything.
All right.
Welcome back to Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes for this morning, Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. The phone number, the 280-5848. You could call and talk about anything you want to talk about. I'd really appreciate some high vibration, good news this morning, whatever it is. You could talk about whatever you want to talk about this morning. It's almost 7:45 at 8 o'clock when I have one guest scheduled from 8 to 8:30. And I appreciate everybody who calling so far, sharing 2 cents. And I especially like when people have one different point of view than I have, and that the people are reasonable, then could listen, then could respond back, then could ask questions. I like a healthy conversation, and I like learning. Morning, talk to it. Morning, please lower your volume. I hear my voice. This is the strangest thing to hear. Morning,
Yes.
talk to it.
I got it off now, the volume.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Okay, it's me again, Ramadan, the field Negro. I just want to add to what I said before, but I want to, well, I guess you've been around in the city and in the country, and you notice that it's very important when you are bilingual, trilingual, multilingual, as much language as you can know is important so you could communicate and they can't tell you no lie. But in Belize, this bilingual, and they keep telling people that you have to be bilingual in order to be higher, and I know they usually tell that to Creole. Because they know already that a lot of Creole people don't understand, not even basic Spanish. So many of the businesses around Belize that are not owned by Afro-Belizean neither put sign on their entrances that the hiring is a vacancy, but you have to be bilingual. I was interviewed, but it's a trick. The point I want to make is a trick. The idea is that you are not to be hired because they want maybe a cashier or they want somebody in the front desk or something, but it cannot be Afro. You have to be straight hair, immigrant, or something like that. And I tell you why I say I know that is so, because I am bilingual. I'm fluent in Spanish, English. I know other languages, but not as much as English and Spanish. And I took at least 3 or 4 interviews. I tell you at least maybe back in the late 80s. I took interview at Belmopan.
Mm-hmm.
I took interview at Belize City and 2 areas and a famous hotel. And the same technology that they had to be bilingual. So I say, yes, here I am. And when they say, okay, so you could answer it? Yeah. They say, okay, say this, say that, read this, read that. I read it until I was astonished when I read it to them. And I always say to me, go back and say, okay, thank you very much for the application, but we'll send an answer to your address. But the answer is I know is no, because I am too black for them. Especially when I wear my African symbols, and so I used to make and sell them downtown Albert Street by a spot front of Scotiabank. A lot of people could tell you I used to be one of the most Afro-conscious business, or maybe the first on Albert Street, because when I was selling Rasta shows and Rasta this and Rasta that, and talking to people at Red, Green and Gold, and Red, Black and Gold, at Garby Eastman, Stockley Carmichael, boy, people like they see that as new, something new. But anyway, so the technology to keep us aback is to tell us that we have to be bilingual, because then everybody, immigrant coming from over the Central America, not the Afros, the one with long hair, the one that look like white people, that's the idea, that they're supposed to fill all the vacancies while our people, our students cannot get the job because they don't know Spanish.
And what interesting, brother, for most of our high school years, we take like 2, 3, 4 years of Spanish. What that's about the education system when Spanish is a requirement for most of we in high school and we graduate and still not know how to talk Spanish.
Yeah, and I will tell you, in my opinion, and I could stand up firm to that, I was interviewed, this name I could tell you because it's nothing negative. I was interviewed by the agency that used to be on Gabrielian U.S. Embassy agency. I was interviewed, 40 people to be correct. 40 people was interviewed to take up by a Spanish coordinator. From the 40 people, only 5 people make it. I was one of the 5. And the person that interviewed and gave us a Spanish test was a lady from San Jose, Costa Rica. And then after we were 5 was approved, they put us to work with the Peace Corps because the Peace Corps was supposed to go around the Spanish districts. Because again, I will bring up, if you notice Belize right now, there's only a handful of people that are still standing as English people, Creole people. When you go to North, when you go to West, when you go to South, when you go to the Key, the identity in those places is Spanish. If you don't identify like that, you are only somebody. If you don't bring no money, you better go back to Belize. Because I went through that too. When I went to the Keys, people look at me and they say, where do you come from? I say, Belize City. As I say, Belize City, oh, no room, nothing available for me. But the moment I open my mouth in Spanish, every door opens for me. And that I experienced that in the North, in the West, and South of Belize, and the Keys of it. So I realized then that this Spanish that is used in Belize, or what you said they teach for 4 years, for some reason to me, it doesn't have what it takes for people to become bilingual.
But then I could say the same thing for English. Most I would take English for in a primary school, in a high school. It would take English, but a lot of us still not talk English correctly.
Yeah.
So now where they go on with the schools then, the education system, if then they teach Spanish and English for so long, a majority of the people still not mastering 2 languages there.
Yeah, and I could tell you, I was surprised that there was a time that a mother came to a school, and she's an immigrant, she only speaks Spanish. And I was surprised that the teachers in that school supposed to know Spanish. They have the basic in Spanish. But when the lady come in, and the lady has some issue about the data, and the lady in Spanish, none of the teachers could understand the lady. And I just happened to be around, and then one of them would know me, say, oh, see that I am over there, mister. And he called me, please come over here. Yes, how can I help? He said, talk to this lady, because he yelled up and we don't understand what he said. So I said to my God, and then how these teachers, the boss of them, they teach Spanish in this school, and they can't understand this lady. I give a book in Spanish to a lady too, and they bring it back to me because they say they don't understand it because the Spanish was too much. Like they can't. So I realized the reason why they couldn't understand the book is because the book was written in the old Anglo-Spanish. That's why they couldn't understand it. So he said, I had my children going to St. Joseph School in primary school, and when the teacher used to send Spanish lessons, they have to search the words to carry the homework the next day. I write about 100 words and I ask my children, show your teacher this tomorrow, and I ask her if he could help you with that. You know when I tell my children that the Spanish that is not paper was too advanced, so they know they did at that level yet. I say, okay. But anyway, the point I want to make is that the Spanish in our rap with this, that in Belize, when you see this sign, they want bilingual, it's only a trick to keep black people away from being employed. Because I got friends, black friends, they come from Honduras, black friends, they come from Nicaragua, black friends, they come from Puerto Barrios, and they are also fully in Spanish, and they know higher than. The next day when we go back there and see, they don't have some little Spanish person in the job. So I used to tell my children, if you work in these places and they put the Spanish person aside of you because they want you to teach them what you know, don't teach them. Because just like how they don't want to help you, I don't see why you want to help them. And maybe, I hope I know get you annoyed when I want to say this. Throughout Central America, here, brother, I think you say somebody was saying that in Guatemala, the black people is not accepted as indigenous. Well, it's not only in Guatemala. The entire Central America, the entire Latin America does not see black people that was born in those countries as indigenous. And where I say I hope I don't offend nobody when I say this, but in my it's a personal opinion, by living and traveling to Central America and the whole of Latin America, the Mayan people in those places, or the indigenous in those, all those countries have Mayan. The Lempas, all those indigenous people all the way down in Central America are in a Maya desert. But those people are the ones that are used to eliminate us. Just like white people in the USA don't like black people. Well, all those Mayan people, indigenous people, they are used to do that. They put them in front of black people in any aspect. I remember, and I was on because I heard Kotaka all day. I remember in the 80s, Puerto Barrios, the whole of Puerto Barrios is like 90% black. No, if you go back there, you're lucky if you find 10%. But I tell you a lot. Anyway, one love, respect.
Thanks for the call, brother. Brother knowledgeable, had enough lived experience in the region, and sometimes I really have value for anecdotal stories, lived experiences, because they have weight with me. And indeed, prejudices and biases exist between groups of people within one group of people. So within African descendants racialized as black people, there's colorism. That the discrimination based on the amount of melanin, how, if you look more European, you hear people in your family say oftentimes positive things. This is not happening in every family, it's happening in a lot of families. If you look more African, you hear people say negative things. Morning, thanks for calling. Talk to it.
I wouldn't blame the education system in Belize for the Spanish or the English not being learned rather than, Sister YaYa. One thing about Spanish in Belize is like broken English. All over the Caribbean or Central America, people speaking slangs in Spanish, right? So I got an A in Spanish. But listen, when it comes to Spanish, you can't expect the education system to go home and go teach you how to conjugate verbs. You know what I'm saying? You got 55 minutes at school for a class. When you go home, you got to learn your conjugate verbs. Sarah, you're 42 edits. You got to learn how to conjugate verbs in order to learn Spanish. People speak broken Spanish like broken English. So I don't want to hear about this, the education system, because you got to go home and go do your homework in order. I passed, I got a B plus on my essay. The average Spanish in Belize can't do an essay in Spanish. Why? Because they can't conjugate the verbs, or past participle, or present. That's all when it comes to education system. I'm a highly educated. It don't sound like it, but I got 2 degrees. I passed Spanish, but you gotta take your homework and go home and learn how to conjugate verbs, past, present, and future. I mean, it's simple. It's very simple. If I could pass Spanish, anybody could pass Spanish. I passed Spanish in Belize, Ecumenical. First in my class, but you gotta learn how to conjugate verbs, and that's what people fail to realize. Now, one of my electricians went to go take a contractor test in Spanish. He's from Guatemala. You know what I'm saying? He never been to school in Guatemala, but when he went to go take the test, he failed. He came back. He said, Belize, I failed the test. I don't know what kind of Spanish that was that I got. That is a different Spanish than when I speak. I said, sir, because you don't know how to speak Spanish. You speak in slangs. You ain't been taught how to speak Spanish, how to conjugate verbs. So Sister YaYa, it's not the education system. Kids got to go home and go do their homework.
Brother, I think there's a number of issues, but an effective educator teach and student learn, regardless of the subject area. So if the majority of your students are not passing or mastering the skill set, that's a reflection of the educator and the education system. And I know enough English and Spanish. One number away like me, memorize, or pass the test. Pass the test, you get, so one letter no mean, one grade no mean say you master something, that you really learn it. Then just to look for your vomit back up what they give you, and gone clear. But I have to go to break, brother. Appreciate the reasoning as always. One love.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I.
Guidance. Break time. time. When we come back, we should have brother. Good morning. Good morning, no. Welcome back to Wake Up Billy's Morning Vibes. It's about 6 minutes after 8. We have our guest by Zoom. Good troublemaker, brother. Welcome, our morning, brother Ako Mutota.
Morning, Sister YaYa. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. How things at Trinidad and Tobago?
Rainy and cloudy this morning.
It's rainy and cloudy. We kind of chilly at Belize City. But I bring you, I tell you, the WUB conversation, lead different from Sunday Review. Brother Ako is the co-host on Sunday Review. Might be reluctant sometimes, but I the drag and you say, yeah, I do this all my life. I try come out, I need a break. Make a day, my beautiful, brilliant, intelligent African sister-in-law, Sister Fanta, I spend time with the fruit trees and so what I want to pull her in. Brother Ako, you tell me a little bit about the National Joint Action Committee, NJAC. In Belize, in the 60s, we had United Black Association for Development. In contemporary times, the first African descent racialized as black people, cultural organization, eventually a political organization. But for the short time, when I was about 5 years, it made an impact on the lives of black people. And so I want to know what the NJAC, what are for their legacy when they come to black people? And could you have managed that, imagine this may be the condition of black people over 50 years later? I know they say, Brother Ako. Okay, something to go up on Brother Ako and so to wait for make it get situated and then you see come back in on the screen and get the audio. There you go, Brother Ako. You hear me? All right, Brother Ako, you not hear me? I don't think he's hearing me because he's not responding.
I'm hearing you now.
Okay, good. I was asking you, what has been the legacy of NJAC in Trinidad and Tobago, and could you have imagined over 50 years later that this would be the condition of black people in Trinidad and Tobago and in the region?
Well, certainly none of us who participated in the movement could have imagined that the conditions would have deteriorated to the point at which it is now. But to speak about the legacy of NJAC, the National Joint Action Committee, the National Joint Action Committee was a transformative organization in Trinidad. Many of the benefits that people enjoy today came about because of the struggles we waged from the 1960s into the 90s. For example, at the height of what was called the Black Power movement, one of the things we demanded was that we nationalize the economy, because our economy was mainly dominated by, foreign multinationals and so on. So, for example, the banks became nationalized. We had the government buying what is called BOLAM, the Bank of London and Montreal, and turning it into the National Commercial Bank. And we had other banks being nationalized. In fact, today, most of the banks in Trinidad and Tobago are local owned, with the exception of one, I think, which was local owned, which was the Royal Bank, which went back to the owners of the Royal Bank in Canada. For example, the oil industry, multinationals, British, American, and Dutch, Shell, BP, Texaco. We demanded that the commanding heights of the economy be owned by the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So the government eventually bought out the assets of BP and turned it into Tesoro, which was the first nationally owned oil company. And later on, they bought Texaco and turned it into the Petrotrin. And so all across the economy, for example, you found this localization in which, for the first time, local Trinidadians and Tobagonians, Africans and Indians, were able to hold leading positions in executive in these executives. Prior to that, that didn't exist, and we emphasized the importance of growing our own food. So the government was forced to make moves to set up things like NAMDEVCO, the National Marketing Development Corporation for Agricultural Products, and so on and so forth. So in the field of culture, for example, we did a whole lot in that area, getting people to recognize the importance of calypso as our national music, the steel band. So the legacy of NJAC is very strong and very much alive, even though another generation is not aware of it. Because what happens when you do not acquire power and those in power implement your ideas, they appropriate them or capture them as their own and then implement them in ways that are not really in the interest of the population. So even though we demanded these waves of ownership by the people, what has happened subsequently is that the government is reversing that position and are now reselling some of the assets that were state-owned back to private enterprise in this wave of privatization that is taking place. We influenced the calypso to such an extent that many of the calypsonians were singing songs praising Africa, expressing our beauty in blackness and so on. You listen to some of the calypsos by Duke and Chalkdust and Valentino expounding the virtues of African civilization, African people. Now, all of those things to some extent have been significantly reduced, but they are undercurrents still in the society, and that is what is left of the NJAC legacy. But to answer your question, I did not think in my lifetime, after having sacrificed, so many of us having sacrificed so much, so many of us, my friends having lost their lives in confrontation with the police and so on, in trying to change the society, we did not believe that the kind of deterioration we're seeing now would have occurred.
I read somewhere this quote that said, revolution is not simply the turning over of leadership, but a transition of real power. I don't know, I mean, a lot of the movement, Black Power movement, them young people in their 20s. So I don't know how much they knew, like knowledge or skills for navigate to an imperialist, capitalist, colonialist, neo-colonialist system and all the isms and skills. That may a tall order, but give thanks to the sacrifices that were made for that period of time. So looking upon Black people then now, I'm not going to look upon crime in particular, because when I bring you on, I think the first day in January, because I think when the state passed one state of emergency, and that just one temporary stopgap. So I'm going to talk to another brother earlier this morning, and I say, if those in power genuinely want to change the system of what happened with Black youth as far as the murdering of each other, it could have happened, but we tend to focus on the youth there and not focus on who the benefit and who really create the space for this continue. What are your 2 cents for crime when it relates to Black people? I mean, it happened in the United States, on the continent of Africa, but right now we look on the Caribbean region. What are your read on that?
Well, Sister YaYa, the first thing is that crime is not the act in itself that you have to focus on. Crime is a consequence of something else. And what we are doing is looking at policing and piecemeal programs as if it can solve crime. Crime is systemic and it is historical. Now, the reality of it, and which most do not want to face, is that these societies that we inherited as Caribbean people, whether we Africans or Indians or indigenous, these societies were born in violence. They were born in violence, they were sustained by violence, both of the physical type and of the psychological and mental type. So the fact that a few months ago or weeks ago, you had to be protesting for a hair policy, that is an act of violence. So what we are looking at is what you call misdemeanors like stealing and other kinds of petty crimes like that. But the nature of the society, which it was the way the society was created, these societies were born in violence. And our leadership has never attempted to address this issue. I'm going to read something for you from the Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran, and you'll understand better context. And this is what he says. He says, pity the nation that is full of beliefs and empty of spirituality. Pity the nation that wears a cloth it does not weave and eat a bread it does not harvest. Pity the nation that acclaims the bully as a hero and that deems a glittering conqueror bountiful. Pity a nation that despises passion in its dream yet submits in its awakening. Pity the nation that raises not its voice save when it walks in a funeral and will not rebel to save its own neck except when laid between the sword and the block. Pity the nation whose statement is a fox and whose philosopher is a juggler and whose art is the art of patching and mimicking. This describes our leadership in the Caribbean. We patchwork and we mimic. We have not developed any indigenous or creative or original approaches to our own problems. So what we are doing is mimicking, patchwork, borrowing from him. For example, I remember in Trinidad, they brought in this guy called Bill Bratton, who was the former commissioner of police in New York, to talk to Trinidad police about crime in Trinidad, because Trinidad is a very bad crime situation. But Bill Bratton methodology of policing and crime solution is a method called the broken windows theory. And I don't know if you have heard of it.
Yes,
but
I remember a mayor that believes does say it often.
You do what?
I remember a mayor that we had in Belize City used to say it often. You know, they travel and they see roundabout or they hear about a broken window theory, and then when they come back, they say, yeah, we could use this to Belize.
Right, and this is a very oppressive system without giving any consideration to humanity and to human beings. And so that resulted in a lot of killings and all of these things in New York. And so the whole idea of this oppressive approach to crime solution is what we inherit and what we go and mimic from different parts of the world. You know, so crime cannot be viewed in isolation. It has to be viewed in the cultural context. It has to be viewed in a sociological context. It has to look at the politics. And where is the most amount of crime? It is in the politics. Corruption, stealing, and misleading people, and so on and so forth. And that kind of white-collar crime is never punished. It is rewarded. So the ordinary person is looking at this and saying, look, the big guy you're not doing anything to the big guy. I'm going to play myself too. So unless we practice equal justice on both ends of the divide, at the top and at the bottom, we are not going to solve our crime problem. We are looking at this thing in a very isolated way and not understanding the systemic contribution to crime. As I said, it's a cultural problem, it's a sociological problem, it's a political problem, and it's also an economic problem. Because our economies are not developed in a way that a young person can feel hopeful that they will be given a job that will sustain them. In fact, I was speaking to a professor in Jamaica about 2 weeks ago. She's a political science professor. And she said in her class, she asked the students, are they hopeful? Because she was asked to deliver a speech on hope at a conference. So she tried to test it out on the students. She said, are you hopeful? And she said there were about 12 students in the class, and every single one of them said they were not hopeful about the future. And the point she made to me is that these are not regular people. These are university students who are going to be in the elite of Jamaican society. And that phenomenon exists throughout the Caribbean. You go in any Caribbean territory and you ask most young people if they feel optimistic or hopeful about the future. Most likely they will tell you no. And this is because of the way this politics works, the way the economics work, okay? And the sociology of the society, which is stifling and doesn't offer any room for expression of young people. You know, so we are looking at crime in a context that will never solve crime.
We keep having these conversations. Our youths keep dying. They keep losing hope. It's a vicious cycle. I mean, it's clear that the system no intend, the people where we elect for make the changes consistently sell we out. Only I'm a kinfolk and my kinfolk. So 50 years from now, if we're still there wrong, we are still to have this conversation. What has history taught us about people who might in a similar situation, how they get out of it?
What has history taught us relative to that?
Yes.
That's the question. Well,
yeah.
I could give an example.
What are the solution to this? How we can change this?
I could, I quote Bob Marley, the only solution is a revolution. Bob Marley said that. I mean, for all that people may think that is wrong with Cuba, right? The problems we have in the rest of the Caribbean, Cuba does not have it. Even though Cuba is under tremendous pressure. And that is because the philosophy of that society is different. The philosophy of that society is different. And so that society takes care of its people. I'll give you, let me just read again another piece to give you an idea. This is a book that was published a few years ago, and it's called Tribute to African Civilization. And there's a chapter 12, deal with the concept of national security in African civilization. It says, this perspective focuses mainly on the sense of security and happiness, which the state and other institutions of the society are supposed to guarantee all their members. Fundamental to this approach is the African view that the most beautiful, the most precious, and the most sacred thing on earth is the human personality, the true manifestation of God. And once again, the Egyptians of antiquity provided this model in which we can learn from. The Egyptians provided this model in which we can learn from today.
Okay, I'm hearing you now.
You hear me? The Africans in ancient Egypt considered the provision of material security to the people to be an indispensable condition for national security. A first responsibility of the state was to see that the people were fed. Moreover, full employment of the citizens was not only an ideal, it was a reality. In fact, the very concept of unemployment did not exist in those civilizations of antiquity. So here we have a society in which profit is the central motive for the function of the society, not the human being. And wherever you put materialism and profit as the raison d'etre for the society, the reason for its existence, you are going to have crime as a consequence. You are going to have corruption and dysfunction. We have to change our philosophical construct. That is what is going to change our society. That is what is going to stop crime. We need a new philosophy, right? We cannot continue with this Westminster British holdover and seeing after 50, 60 years, we are seeing the same problems repeating itself every generation, but yet we are holding on to this as if it's the only approach to governance and the organizing of society. We have to return to a place where our African ancestors taught us lessons, our Haitian ancestors in the Caribbean, our indigenous ancestors, where they taught us lessons about how society should be governed. That is the solution to our problem. We must have a new philosophy for our societies. And unless we change this approach, we are going to be repeating the same conversations year in, year out, decade in, decade out. We need a change in philosophy, a change in approach.
Excellent. I can ask you the last question. We have another 5 minutes. So we end up right at part we start. That what create the problem can't be expected to solve the problem.
Exactly.
And so the problem is really a European mindset of how a country or a community or a global order is created, constructed, maintained, and that really majority global north could call itself first world because of the labor, natural resources that primarily the global south, and the first being human labor, and then with natural resources. So unless we have people in a political office who are first conscious, aware, willing to look for a different way to create one society and generally care about people, that not happen. So how to make that happen, Brother Akko? How we could start to sow the seed to say, well, hope they are set that you just want to be the one where could go, at least go in at the government and create one coalition, but for their conscious mindset want to be what we hope for future generations and be the kind of change where you talk about this morning. How that happen?
Mr. YaYa, a few years ago, a friend of mine asked me to be part of a political party she was forming. And she invited me to a meeting. And I asked her what is the ideology of the party, and she couldn't tell me what it was. In other words, they did not have any core beliefs about anything. It was all about trying to get into power. So unless we have an ideological position on the economy, how are we going to organize the economy? How we are going to organize education, right? How we organize a culture. Unless there's an ideological position, we are going to be repeating the same thing. You know, I remember there was an interview with Deng Xiaoping, who was the man credited with opening up China. He was asked a question by a journalist whether China is capitalist or communist. And his answer was, what does it matter if a cat is black or white? What matters that it catches rats. In other words, he was saying that what he wants, whether you see me communist or whatever I believe in, what I want is a society that functions that in a way that can deliver to the people. We are stuck in this Westminster model, this British inherited thing. It is not delivering on any level, economically, politically, culturally, and yet we are stuck with it. We lock people up who stand against it. So again, to answer your question, we need a fresh philosophical approach to governance, to how we see society. This is fundamental. It is the same thing Singapore did. Singapore was just like the rest of the Caribbean, ex-British colony. And what Lee Kuan Yew and the elites in Singapore did was to seek a solution to all the problems that they saw emerging in Singapore. And they came up with something called shared values, in which they discussed the culture of Singapore. They discussed their history, and they developed a synthesis of these ideas, which they executed in the society, and look at the transformation of that society today. So we need our leaders at all levels, not just the politicians, the business elites, the religious elites, right, and others, to think more about the society and to stop thinking about conventions and protocols, and think more about how can we effectively organize a society that delivers to the people. And that is what Deng Xiaoping said. He said, you want to ask me if I'm communist or capitalist? It doesn't matter. What matters, right? You know, if the cat is black or white, what matters catches rats. And that is what we need, delivery, a philosophy that delivers on crime solution, that delivers on equality, okay, that delivers on health, right? And whatever we call ourselves, as long as that philosophy can deliver, then we go on clear as the saying goes. But right now, we have no philosophy, and there was a president of Trinidad called Ellis Clark, and we criticized him a lot because he was always partying and in cocktail parties. But he made one profound statement in a speech one time. He said that a person without a philosophy is no better than a vagrant. And too many of our politicians have no philosophy at all, except power and the maintenance of power. So in Ellis Clark perspectives, they are no better than vagrants. And that kind of vagrancy is what has impacted our society in every sphere you could think about, from the economy to crime. We need a new philosophy. We need something that can transform our societies politically, economically, socially, and otherwise. And we know after 50 and 60 years of Westminster, it does not work. It doesn't even work in Britain. So much less thinking it will work for us in the Caribbean. And we need the courage and the character and the intelligence of our leadership to conceive of ideas that will work for us in the Caribbean. That's the solution, in my opinion.
You know, Brother Dawood called in this morning, or Brother Dawood usually call in, and him to say, well, leaders need for meat, the people need to be, and I tell Brother Dawood, I tired of meat. I tired attack over and over and over. What you'd add to that conversation is when you meet for talk, is that you have to find one, make a consensus on a philosophy that will be in the interest of all people. And for example, we could look at Singapore as an example. So I feel like we're make moving forward, but I was sneaking this quickly before we go. This will be the last question. But Mecca, before I ask you this last question, I get one text where say, I'm applauding this show on point. Having inherited a colonial mindset and system, we cannot expect transformation of a society using that same mindset. Now, if at the point that we got political independence, Brother Akko, if there was meaningful decolonization, then what you're talking about a philosophy, about the brother text, a change in mindset, that is what should have happened at the point of political independence. Why did that not happen?
It did not happen because the British educated a class of leaders to serve their interests. Now you have to understand, the education system that we inherited from the British was meant to make us efficient and effective to run the British public service and the British economic systems. When we got our so-called independence, our flag and briefcase independence, the mindset of these leaders never changed. They were all educated in Oxford and Cambridge and so on. And they spoke the Queen's English and were proud to speak the Queen's English better than the Queen herself. So that was the first thing. Then there was no transformation of the economic system, the education system, sorry, which would have allowed us to develop an education system that is rooted in our reality. There was no transformation of the education system. There was no transformation of the political system. So what we inherited were all British institutions. So there was no process of decolonization. Right? This is why all our streets, all our capitals in the Caribbean, Trinidad capital is called Port of Spain. After 60-odd years of independence, we are still a port of Spain. In Ghana is Georgetown, St. Vincent is Kingstown, Jamaica, Kingston. So where is the decolonization process? We never decolonized, you know, and we continue this, and we have transmitted this distorted version of reality to our children and the generations to come. You know, there's a poet called, he's deceased now, called Leroy Clark. He uses an interesting metaphor from Trinidad to describe our society. We have a thing in Trinidad we call Dwen, and a Dwen is a part of the folklore of Trinidad. And what the folklore says is that if a child dies before it is named, that child wanders forever, and you can see the child at various points, appearing at various points. But the child has the feet pointed backward, and that's why you know a Dwen. That's a folklore. And what Leroy Clark said is that we live in a Dwendom. In other words, a Dwen is a grotesque, distorted, unfulfilled, undeveloped individual. And this is what our societies are. You know, it is distorted, they are disfigured, and we are not understanding, and that is the least I'm talking about, that they have to lead to change that society. So our institutions create these monstrosities, and this is what I think the Italian philosopher Gramsci spoke about. Because we are trying to change the world. People like you and I and others, we are trying to change the world. And Gramsci has a very interesting quote about that. He said, the old world is dying, the new world struggles to be born. It is a time of monsters. So a lot of what we're seeing relative to crime and all of these, you know, young men in this cultural dysfunction with all their pants on their butt, these are the monsters of a civilization that we inherited, that our efforts to change it is constantly trying to fight us down. And so we have to seriously, you know, understand these things. And we have to seriously change that mindset and become decolonized. In other words, as Fanon said, we must not become black-skinned white mass, right? We must not become black-skinned with white mentalities or Eurocentric mentalities. And that is the challenge for leadership in the Caribbean, and that is the challenge of decolonization.
Big thanks, Brother Akko Motota, Sunday Review co-host. Brother, thanks on short notice for accepting the invitation for share the wisdom that you did with us this morning. The brother texts back and say, effectively organizing and transforming a society for the benefit of the people requires visionary leadership at every institution. Too many of our leaders remain stuck and lazily sleepwalking through the system we inherited. Big thanks, brother, for the text.
The brother is absolutely correct. Absolutely. We need visionary leadership and leaders who are prepared to work. And our leaders are not prepared to do that.
Respect. And that's why only the people want to save the people. You have to the people for become knowledgeable, for put the pressure upon them, for the kind of lives we want to live and the kind of communities, societies, and countries we want to live in. Now, tune into Sunday Review this Sunday. We don't have none for Easter Sunday. So tune in because we have Brother Pierre Labossiere from Haiti Action Committee. We know you have the heights of reasoning. Me, Brother Pierre, Brother Akko. Brother Akko Mutota from Trinidad and Tobago. Big thanks for take time out this morning, brother. We're going to break and then we'll come back. One love, brother. See you Sunday morning.
Thank you.
In Belize,
Welcome back to Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes for this morning, Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. We just had a Heights of Reasoning with Brother Akamotota. And I really like the connection between Brother Dawood recommendation and Brother Ako recommendation, because they want unification. And one of the things why it's so important to listen to people, even if you don't agree with one position, for listen to it. Because when Brother Dawood called in, I tell him, brother, I tired of the talking. I tired of the talking, so I don't want to meet nobody, talk to no, I tired of the talking. And I am tired of the talking. What Brother Akka put forward is specifically what would be talked about, like the agenda, the philosophy. But even so, it want to take one level of organizing, and I don't have the bandwidth. I tell you, real 2025, there are limits already. But I appreciate Brother Dawood. I say, been the call out of media houses, been to put it out there. And that's not because nobody else not talk about looking for solutions. I'm sure they are, I'm sure they have been. I just the note this morning, Brother Dawood call, we're talking. Right now, 8:45, so we got another 15 minutes. We got one more break, Chicliff. We got one more break. Thanks, Harlan. But so the number is, if anybody want to call in, 280-5848, 280-5848. In 5 minutes, I go in the break. I want to come back after break and be time for lock off. So if you're not calling, you know I go talk about black people, as we have been talking about. Now, no say, all Belizeans benefit from these conversations. All Belizeans. We're human beings, first and foremost. And then you identify how you want to identify, if you want to identify by ethnic group or by your religious conviction, that's their choice. I identify as a spirit having an African woman experience in this realm. That's how I identify. So since black people are my interest, I like that about black people. And then they're not like one lot of media houses make space for focus on black people business, then joys and then sorrows and the realities and the past stories. I mean, that's where Zinc Fence come from. Respect to United Black Association for Development, which reminds me, I think there's something I talk about on maybe Monday. I don't remember exactly what it was that I said, and somebody sent me this text, and I tell the person, respect, it was Monday. Make I just read the text because I just remember just now. I'm just going to talk about UBAD and UBAD work when I remember I said this person sent this text Monday. And they sent it after like 2 minutes to 9, so I never see it, right? It said, good morning, YaYa. Kremandala is a realization of an initiative of Evanex Hyde and those who have and continues to contribute in the public space through media like no other in Belize and our region. There are many who are unaware of this history. We need to recognize those and all contributions in and for our development. Keep sharing the info and knowledge. I must have been sharing about where African descendants visualized as black people come from. And I know I usually say it, but that morning I never say it, so I appreciate somebody else saying it, that we must never forget the sacrifices that people make for we get here. For this media house still there, and this not, you know, we don't show yourself, see yourself, be yourself, but it's a part of knowing your worth, about telling your own stories. Nobody know how to tell for we story for we. We only, therefore, a Mandela newspaper, 55 years, Crime Radio, 35 years, UEF, 29 years, XTV, 21 years, because of the power of the Belizean people. The Belizean people. We no last. Carla, thanks for calling. Talk to me. Talk to me.
Yes, again, Ramadan. I agree when you say that people that in power or that rule or control countries, especially our countries, they are well aware of what's taking place in any aspect, where it is anything, where it is drug trafficking, drug moving, drug whatever. There was a lady on a Mexican channel, and she was the ex-wife of one of the cartel leaders in Mexico. And she said that the reason why drug traffic will never stop is because the two sides of the border, on the American side and the Mexican side, the two sides have orders not to stop anybody that's bringing drugs. From high out offices, they tell them. That's what she was saying on somebody interviewed her after she served some years in prison, but she was the wife of a cartel, one of the top cartel in Mexico. So the doors are open, green light to go in and out with arms back and drugs in. And as I say, you're right, because I recall in my story or my story I read our. When I read, I don't want to read history because white people. I want to read our story to get knowledge. If you know from where you came, you are due to live in shame. So you need to read. I love reading. I recommend it. When you like reading, read Black Mexico. In that book, you'll find my name as Adam Mohammed. I am the translator and guide in that book to that brother that wrote that book, Black Mexico. So in the U.S., in one of the prisons in the U.S., going back to the point that all laws and governments are aware of everything. There was a letter that was left under the pillow. They call it the Willie Lynch letter. That letter was left under the pillow of a black prisoner in Texas, or Texas, which is the correct original name. And the letter say, "Thank you," was said by a Ku Klux Klan under his pillow. "Thank you for destroying yourselves." He said, because first we used to have to destroy you and kill you and move you and lynch you. And now, we don't need to do that. He said, you kill yourself because you use cocaine, you use marijuana, you drink alcohol. I mean, sorry about the marijuana, no. You use cocaine, you use crack, you use whiskey, you use all type of liquor. So you're killing yourself now. So this Ku Klux Klan man was telling the black people, sending a message and a letter to black people. You're killing yourself, so thank you very much. And again, I will wrap it by saying that you say that the brother sent a text acknowledging CREM. Yes, I also do. I've been telling more over and over. CREM is the only station for the people under oppression that suffering from oppressing the oppressed and the wretched of the earth. When I was by chance in the U.S., my only newspaper in the U.S. would be the Final Call. And my only newspaper in Belize would be Amanda. One love, power to the people. Ubafu in Garifuna, power to the people.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate the reasoning. Break time.
Take a deep breath. You feel that energy coursing through your body?
Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. No more phone calls. Time for shut the shop. Can you believe I have to send no more phone calls? I can't tell you now how much, especially for a morning like this morning, I value when the community calling, when the community engage, when the community listen, when the community share, when the community disagree, when the community laugh together. Only the people and save the people. And it's important that we stay in communication, stay connected, try be patient and kind and compassionate. I know tell you I always do that thing there, but I want goal every day, you know? So really big thanks to the community this morning. Everybody will text, call, live stream, or share this link. Remember YouTube, XTV Belize, Facebook, XTV Belize. Give thanks for the community and our community in the diaspora, the Caribbean community in the diaspora. They have different diaspora. At the security booth when I came in this morning was Roger Rushford, better known as rapper. We laugh because if you don't know a rapper for here, government named her Roger Rushford. Like, you know, go with rapper. Rapper and good name for her. Now it's Shane Flowers here at XTV. The Master Chief Operator is Alex Sibyl, and Chief Engineer is Brother Cliff Lewis. Downstairs at Crum Radio is Larry G, Larry Guerrero, known as Larry G. And this show will repeat at 5:30 this evening on your local XTV Belize channel. And again, you could share the link, listen to it, Facebook, XTV Belize, YouTube, XTV Belize. Go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell. And Belizean people, it's challenging times in so many ways. I mean, there are not words to describe what some people live through. Some could just be intentional for, just take a deep breath. Not be so quick for just answer back somebody. We don't always have to have the last word. We don't know what people live with. Just give them some grace. Give them a bly. Loud them. Give somebody one kind word. Open a door for somebody. Say thank you. Tell them they look good for the day if you think they look good. One of my greatest joys right now, especially when it comes to black youths, anywhere I sit in the country, but Belize City primarily, we have some big natural afro. And sad to say, most of the black youths, they're usually serious when you're sitting, and their face serious, their eyes look distant. And I say, afternoon or morning, youth, I love your bush. And you can see like it take 1 second for them like get where they say. But 9 out of 10 times they got this big, beautiful smile that usually make my day. So take time with people. Take time with people. Give your own self some grace. Be still, relax, take a breath. Just think of some good moments. We go through hard times, we are. So we have to do what we could for keep the spirits up. And if you need to ball, if you, whatever the advice, just try and make it have one long-term impact in your life and hurt yourself or other people. Tomorrow, Brother Noor Muhammad should be here on Thursday and Friday. All goes well, I'll be back next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I should be walking from Ladyville to Belize City in front of the Ministry of Education building on North Front Street next Thursday, which I think is the 17th of April. Next Thursday, because I'm on there. Until then, only the people want to save the people.
Wake up, Belize. 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 Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize.